People bring their past,
Yeah.
they take responsibility, or they don't take responsibility, either way, but they bring all this stuff with them and they don't necessarily know how to actually deal with it. So when we can take that pressure away and we can empower people to actually see quite quickly that there's a pathway forward, they start to get invigorated and they start to get excited about what's possible.
Joining me on the line today, I've got Kitty Thomas from Debt Angel Solutions. Welcome to the call, Kitty.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Debt Angel Solutions, obviously right now with the economy the way it is, there's a lot of people in business that are hurting. And I think it's pretty timely to understand a bit about how that impacts a small business and I suppose what you're seeing in the marketplace. So maybe give us a bit of an insight into what you do and what you're seeing.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I guess in summary, I started Debt Angels because I went through a huge amount of debt in my early 20s. And I know the pain of not having a solution or being able to get out of it, or even understanding the creditors can be very scary when they're threatening you with all kinds of things. And even with the relief packages that are being offered at the moment, a deferment of payment, it may not be in people's best interest because you're deferring the inevitable. So what we actually do here and what we teach people is that you can reduce and freeze interest, fees, charges, and payments on most things. You can restructure debt, you can settle for less, you can even partially or fully waive depending on a situation. But you asked me specifically about business people, and one of the things that I've found, because I've been in business, I was just telling you before the call about my entrepreneurial seizure since when I was a kid. I've been, for the last 25 years, I've been in business or more. And what I know, not only of myself, but so many businesses, is that we top up with our own money, either physically or through credit of some description.
Yeah.
And so quite often what we find is that people who have their own business, especially smaller businesses, are self-funded, they're a sole trader, even if they do have a P2L limited, they're still using their own money to actually keep it afloat. So what we do with small businesses is we would basically bring in a small business, hold off everything, give them the ability to breathe, because when people are suffering from debt distress, it's anxiety. It's, oh my God, there's no oxygen that goes through to people's brain. And when there's no oxygen that goes through to people's brain, they can't think, they can't create, they can't come up with solutions. It's not that they don't want to, there just isn't the space in your brain to be able to find respite. So stopping everything, putting a structure in place, getting a strategy allocated, making sure that people know that they've not done anything wrong, because I think so many, and it's human nature, and as a coach, people bring their past, they take responsibility, or they don't take responsibility, either way, but they bring all this stuff with them and they don't necessarily know how to actually deal with it. So when we can take that pressure away and we can empower people to actually see quite quickly that there's a pathway forward, they start to get invigorated and they start to get excited about what's possible. Robert Kiyosaki said it perfectly, and this is what inspired me when I was in $150,000 worth of debt at my early 20s, was that the bigger the problem, the bigger the solution. And if you really, as a business owner, which most of us are, super passionate about what we do and why we do it, if you have a problem and then the pressure comes off and you actually have the ability to think, you will create a far greater solution to solve the problem. And if there's a way to hold things away with your debt so that you can have that time and space to pivot or recreate yourself, introduce a new product line, whatever it is that you need to do to bring more money in, then there's nothing wrong with actually going, you know what, I need a helping hand. I'm going to push this stuff to the side. I need someone to either help me do it or tell me how to do it so that I can actually get ahead and recreate myself, especially now with everything that's going on.
Yeah, we see a lot of small businesses with this pressure of the looming, the permanent lockdown, let's call it, with just a flicker of light at the end of the tunnel. But a lot of people, their tank is empty. And we're just watching people who are just giving up and they're just saying, I can't sustain this any longer. So there's a question around how do you, when you're drowning in alligators, how do you think about how do I strategize my business? Let me ask you, if you were talking to a person who's quite stressed right now by the economy, what are the top 3 tips you would give them?
So stressed by the economy or by their financial position?
The economy's impact on their financial position.
Okay. So the first thing that I would suggest is that you get clear on your current position. I'm dealing with a client at the moment who quite often we emotively stay in business because we have so much invested. I know I was like that with the venue that I ran. I was committed to the venue, And really, my sensibility wasn't there. It wasn't making a profit. It wasn't a viable business. And at some point, I needed to cut my losses and get out. Whereas I often refer to it as my baby before I had babies. And I think so many of us do that. So getting clear on where you currently stand. What is your current financial position? What are your debts costing you? Because quite often we're paying off $200 a month off something, and 130 of that is going on interest. So you're only paying $70 a month off that debt. That's a definition of insanity right there. So getting clear on what that is, because so many people don't know, and knowing what your credit file says about you. So understanding your position, and then giving yourself the time and space to actually look at where you stand once and go and being honest with yourself. Do I have a viable business moving forward? Is there a recoverable position? Some tough love to yourself. And then the third one would be potentially have a conversation with somebody externally and see who you are for that, like who they are, who they view you as. What other capacities they may see that you could introduce if you are in a position that's not potentially viable. What are your options? So not necessarily talking to an expert, but talking to somebody else and going, what else can you see as available for me to do moving forward? I know that's a little bit weird, but it's giving outside scope on, because we're so in our head when we're stuck. We're in our head. I often call it head miles. You're going round and round in circles. You're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
So if you can stop it, stop the noise, put it out in front of you, get clear on your position, and then get an alternate view on what else might be possible. It might empower you to step forward or to cut your losses and go, you know what, actually, I don't want to move on. It's not lighting me up. I'm doing what I'm doing because I have to feed the family or I have to pay whatever it may be. What we do isn't bankruptcy. So I don't jump to bankruptcy straight away in my thoughts. But in saying that, sometimes that is not, there's no shame in going, okay, this is all too much. We're in a global pandemic. Yeah. But again, you need to be driven by what you're doing. You need to be passionate about what you're doing in your business and why. Otherwise, that recoverable position is hard work.
Yeah, fantastic. Really good advice there. Can I just ask you, obviously you're pretty passionate about your business, but what would you consider the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
Oh, wow. Best piece of business advice that I've ever received. Follow your purpose.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Be true to your purpose and follow what you're meant to be doing. Dave Ramsey, a guy in America, a finance guy in America, often says there are all these people that are going to work to pay off, to earn enough money to pay for the house that they're never in. They're driving, sitting in traffic. They're not enjoying their life because they're paying for the past for the rest of their life. They miss out on who they are. Like, I think Australians, we have so much to offer in terms of who we are and our ability, our passion, our purpose. But so many of us have got shackles on because of, I'm a big believer that the banks have overlent people money. I really, really believe that before the Royal Commission, they were handing out, money like it was lollies. And so many people are trapped by their past, and they don't need to be. And if they're trapped by their past, they can't be who they are here to be. Like they can't fulfill their purpose.
Well, I think the reality is we live in a world full of candy because we've got payday loans and we've got credit cards and we've got what's it called now? All that stuff that's happening. And inevitably, it just keeps coming up and people kept getting tempted by it. But I suppose the real answer is to realize what it is. And it's just really a hole that people are digging and putting themselves deeper and deeper in debt.
I often say if nothing changes, like whether it's around your finances or anything, if you want something to change, you need to change it.
Yeah. And I think you're right. A lot of small business owners have got their head in the sand. And
understandably,
have a reality check. Some people have realised they didn't have even a slush fund. So they didn't have a war chest or a debt account or an account to ride through the storm. So they really have to make some drastic changes. But for others, it's a great opportunity because they're seeing a lot of fertile ground for taking over other organisations, other client bases and the like.
You've got people that are hurting and have no clue and no way forward and just want to give up, understandably, because they can't see. That anxiety is there, they can't see. And the other people that have a huge opportunity inside of this world, inside of this new world. But I think that there's a lot of opportunity that people don't know about for the people that are hurting to actually reset their life.
Yeah.
And that's what I would be encouraging anybody that's hurting, is to really honestly look at who you are, where you're at, where you want to be, and how you're going to get there.
Yeah, and then
don't let debt stop
get someone else from outside to confirm your position, so it's not a bias.
Yeah. Yeah, and don't, if I may be so bold, I really want to, I'm so passionate about transforming the conversation of debt so that people are no longer ashamed, guilty, or embarrassed. They don't need to be. We did what we did in the past. We made the choices we made. Sometimes they were questionable, sometimes they were circumstantial, but it's in the past and we're paying for it in the future and we don't need to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, put your hand up if you need help around anything, business, coaching, finance, whatever it is, just,
reach
step
out.
out. Yeah.
Fantastic advice, Kitty. So thanks so much for your time today. Really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
I'm sure some people can see the passion that you have for this. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Take care. Bye now.